If you have a bottle of whiskey sitting on your shelf right now, there is a very good chance you are being lied to. Not in a small way, not in a technical, fine print sort of way. In a brazen, deliberate, calculated way that has been going on for decades, while distilleries and blenders pocket your money and laugh all the way to their accountants. The bottle you bought at Tesco last Christmas, the one with the tartan label and the Highland imagery, the one that promised you warmth, craftsmanship and tradition, may contain nothing more than industrially blended spirit loaded with artificial colouring, sweetened with undisclosed additives, and packaged to trick your brain into feeling heritage it absolutely did not earn. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on 10 whiskies sold right here in Britain that you should avoid at all costs. And we are not stopping there, because at the end of this video, we are going to show you the bottles that actually deliver what they promise. The ones tested, trusted, and genuinely worth your hard-earned pounds. Stay with us until the very end, because what you are about to learn will change the way you shop forever. Drop a comment right now with the whiskey in your cabinet. Let us see how many of them show up on this list. Number 10. Clan MacGregor. The ghost whiskey you never knew you were buying. Walk into any Lidl or budget off-licence in Britain and you will find Clan MacGregor staring back from the bottom shelf. The label carries clan imagery, mountain silhouettes, suggestions of Scottish identity and proud Highland distilling tradition. The price sits around £8 to £12 a bottle. Your brain is being manipulated. Clan MacGregor is not a Highland craft product. It is a heavily blended spirit produced at industrial scale, predominantly using grain whisky from continuous column stills, which is the cheapest and most flavourless method of whisky production in existence. The malt content in this blend is so low that industry insiders describe it as closer to neutral grain spirit with colouring added than anything resembling traditional Scotch. And that colouring, every sip you take contains E150A, spirit caramel, an artificial additive used to make whiskey look darker and therefore older than it actually is. You are paying for the illusion of age. Independent tasters have consistently noted that high levels of E150A add a bitter, slightly metallic finish to cheaper whiskies, exactly the kind of aftertaste you have probably noticed and blamed on the glass or the mixer. Uncap a bottle right now, smell it properly. There is almost nothing there. A faint sweetness, a vague grain note, and then emptiness. Real whiskey has layers. This has none. Skip it entirely. Number 9. J&B Rare. The bar staple that ran out of reasons to exist. For a generation, J&B Rare was everywhere in British pubs. The pale yellow liquid in that distinctive bottle built its entire identity on being light and mixable, which was a masterclass in turning a weakness into a marketing strategy. J&B is pale for a reason, and the reason is not flattering. It is a blend dominated by grain whisky, aged for the minimum legal period of 3 years and blended in enormous volumes. In 2019, independent sensory analysis from multiple respected British tasting panels described J&B as delivering no identifiable whisky character beyond grain sweetness and a brief alcoholic warmth. That is not a whisky, that is a spirit delivery system. Diageo, the corporation that owns J&B alongside a significant portion of the global spirits industry, has never had any incentive to improve the liquid because the marketing budget keeps sales figures strong, regardless of what is inside. Millions of people across Britain have formed their entire impression of whisky from a product that delivers none. Number 8. William Peel, the whisky that belongs in a chemistry lesson. Sold widely in British supermarkets at prices that seem almost absurdly low, William Peel has been independently tested and found to contain some of the highest levels of E150A caramel colouring relative to its declared age of any major selling Scotch whisky blend available in the UK market. The colouring makes it look like a 12 or 15-year-old whisky. The label imagery reinforces that impression. The actual age statement is absent because an age statement would be a liability, not a selling point. Open a bottle and smell the inside of the cap. That sweet, slightly burnt caramel note underneath the spirit? That is E150A. That is not whiskey character. That is a laboratory additive designed to fool your eyes and your nose simultaneously. Industry insiders who have worked in blending facilities describe William Peel as constructed entirely for margin, meaning every decision during production is about reducing cost rather than improving the liquid. The malt components used are the lowest quality single malt parcels rejected by premium blenders, combined with high proportion grain spirit and then corrected to colour with artificial additive. The Advertising Standards Authority has received multiple complaints over the years about whisky marketing in Britain that implies heritage not supported by the contents of the bottle. William Peel exemplifies precisely the kind of product those complaints describe. Number 7. White and Mackay Special. The blend that outsources its identity. White and Mackay has been sold, resold, and ownership shuffled so many times in the last 2 decades that the question of who is actually responsible for the liquid has become difficult to answer. The brand originated in Glasgow and once carried a respectable reputation in the Scotch blending world. Through each ownership change, the consistent pattern reported by industry observers and independent whisky journalists has been the same. The premium malt parcels originally used in the blend were progressively replaced with cheaper alternatives to defend margin, while the label and price positioning remained unchanged. A whisky journalist writing for one of Britain's most respected drinks publications described tasting White and Mackay Special from bottles purchased in 2010 and 2022 side by side, noting what he called a significant and troubling reduction in malt character with a corresponding increase in grain dominance. When the spirit inside a bottle changes and the label outside does not, the consumer is being deceived. The aggressive pricing in Asda and Morrison's captures budget-conscious buyers who associate the Scottish name with quality they will not find inside the bottle. Number 6. Bell's Original. The blend that became a lesson in how far a brand can fall. There was a time when Bell's was a genuinely competitive blend. Bell's Original, as it exists today, is produced by Diageo and has been progressively optimised for cost efficiency rather than quality. Independent tasters working for consumer organisations in Britain have returned consistent verdicts. Thin grain spirit base, heavy reliance on E150A to provide the appearance of richness, and a finish described variously as short, bitter and chemically unpleasant. The bitter finish is a known side effect of high levels of spirit caramel in grain-dominated blends. Your palate is detecting an additive, not a whisky character. Bell's is one of the top-selling Scotch whisky brands in Britain by volume, which means tens of millions of people are encountering this product every year, and many of them are forming their entire impression of whisky from it. Diageo could improve Bell's. They have the distilleries, the stocks, and the expertise. They choose not to because the margin on the current liquid is considerably more attractive than investing in genuine quality would allow. Number 5. The famous grouse, the bird that forgot how to fly. The famous grouse is the best-selling Scotch whisky in Scotland itself, which means the people who live closest to the distilleries, the people whose cultural identity is most connected to whisky, are buying this blend under the impression that it represents their heritage. It does not. The famous grouse is owned by Idrington, the same company that produces the Macallan and Highland Park. The contrast between how Edrington manages those premium brands and how they manage the famous grouse is instructive. The Macallan receives exceptional cask selection and strict quality controls. The famous grouse receives a production philosophy based on delivering a consistent product at a competitive price point, which is a polite way of saying quality is secondary to volume. Independent analyses consistently identify a product heavily influenced by young grain spirit, corrected with E150A, delivering a flavour profile that, while inoffensive, provides nothing that justifies the cultural cachet the brand enjoys. Scotland deserves better. You deserve better. Number 4. Teacher's Highland Cream, the academic fraud at the heart of a great name. Teacher's was once considered among the better value blends in Britain, with a historically higher malt content than most competitors at the same price point. That was the past. Beam Suntory, the Japanese-American corporation that now owns Teacher's, has made decisions that independent whisky analysts describe with barely concealed frustration. The declared malt content, which was a historical point of pride for Teacher's, has been the subject of significant skepticism in the trade. Multiple blind tasting sessions conducted by respected British whisky writers over the last decade have produced results inconsistent with high malt content, leading to published assessments that the liquid has been quietly reformulated while traditional claims remain on the label. The word cream in the name originally referred to genuine richness resulting from malt content and careful blending. Today's Teacher's Highland Cream is described by industry professionals as tasting primarily of grain spirit, with a brief malt note that arrives and disappears before you can identify it. What is on the outside of the bottle should honestly represent what is inside. Number 3. Grant's Family Reserve, 3 generations of misleading a nation. William Grant & Sons is the family company behind Glenfiddich and Balvenie, 2 single malts of genuine international reputation. The fact that the same company produces Grant's Family Reserve should in theory be reassuring. It is not. Grant's Family Reserve is a blend constructed at the bottom of the price to quality spectrum, and the family branding exists primarily to borrow credibility from the premium single malts that share the corporate parent. This is a deliberate strategy. Consumers in Tesco or Sainsbury's who recognise the Grant's name from the single malt context are being leveraged into a purchasing decision that benefits from an association the product has not earned on its own merits. Grant's Family Reserve contains E150A caramel colouring, carries no age statement indicating very young component whiskies, and has been consistently rated at the bottom of the blend category by independent British whisky publications. The majority of buyers of Grant's Family Reserve believe they are purchasing something meaningfully connected to the quality standards of Glenfiddich. They are not. Drop a comment if you bought Grant's because you recognised the name from the single malt world. Number 2. Johnnie Walker Red Label. The walking man going nowhere. Johnnie Walker is one of the most famous whisky brands on earth. The striding figure is recognised in 180 countries. The Red Label is the most widely distributed Scotch whisky on the planet. It is also one of the most aggressively industrial products in the entire category. Diageo produces Johnnie Walker Red Label at a scale that is difficult to comprehend, and at that scale, quality is not a variable that can be meaningfully controlled. The blend uses whiskies from dozens of distilleries combined with grain spirit and then standardised across millions of litres with E150A colouring to ensure the liquid looks identical in every bottle regardless of what the actual spirit character would suggest. When you are colouring a product to disguise its true appearance, you are manufacturing an illusion. Consumer groups in Britain have repeatedly called for mandatory disclosure of additives in spirits, and the lobbying power of companies like Diageo has repeatedly been used to resist that transparency. Ask yourself why a company with nothing to hide would spend millions lobbying against disclosure requirements. A man in Glasgow who worked 20 years in the Scotch whisky industry told a drinks publication he had refused to drink Johnnie Walker Red since his first year in the trade. His words were precise. This is not whisky made with pride. This is whisky made with spreadsheets. Subscribe now so you catch every investigation before you spend another penny on bottles that do not deserve your trust. Number 1. The Singleton of Glen Ord. the premium trap that charges you for a name. The Singleton range represents perhaps the most sophisticated deception on this list because it operates at a price point that genuinely signals quality. You are paying £15 to £25 for a bottle in Waitrose or Majestic wine. The bottle looks beautiful. An age statement is present. The marketing language is restrained in the way that genuinely premium products tend to be. You have every reason to believe you are making a good choice. The problem is that the Singleton has been developed by Diageo specifically to capture the trading up consumer. The person who wants to feel they have moved beyond basic blends into something more serious, without Diageo actually committing the cask investment and production standards that genuine quality at that price requires. Independent assessments from whisky critics writing in Decanter and specialist British whisky publications have consistently noted what one writer called a cynical gap between the Singleton's presentation and its content. The oak influence appears manufactured to suggest longer maturation through techniques that accelerate the superficial characteristics of age without delivering the genuine complexity that actual time in cask produces. For anyone spending this kind of money believing they are buying an honestly crafted single malt, the betrayal is financial and cultural at once. Now, go check your cabinet. If you see any of those 10 bottles, set them aside, because what comes next is the part of this video that matters most. Compass Box Asyla. This is what a blend looks like when the person making it genuinely cares. John Glaser founded Compass Box in London with one stated intention: to make the most interesting and honest blended Scotch whiskies possible. Compass Box publishes the full recipe of every blend it makes, listing every malt and grain component, the distillery of origin, the age, the cask type, and the percentage. No other major blending house does this. Asyla is their entry point, and it delivers something none of the 10 whiskies above can claim. Genuine complexity from genuinely good components, assembled with skill and disclosed honestly. No E150A, no additives, just whiskey. Available in Majestic wine and independent retailers across Britain for around £25. Glenfarclas 15-year-old. This is what honest single malt looks like. The Grant family, the actual Grant family who have owned Glenfarclas independently since 1865, have never sold the distillery and have never pursued volume at the expense of quality. The 15-year-old expression is matured exclusively in sherry casks, with no artificial colouring added and no chill filtration removing the natural oils and texture that make good whisky interesting. It is rich, genuinely complex, and it tastes of real wood and real spirit character. For anyone who has been drinking Bell's or Famous Grouse and wondering why people get excited about whisky, this is the answer. Available in good independents and online retailers across Britain for approximately £40 to £50, Springbank 10-year-old, the small distillery that refused to compromise. Springbank in Campbelltown malts their own barley on site, distills in a unique 2.5 times process, and bottles everything by hand in small batches. They use no artificial colouring. They do not chill filter. The result is a whisky that tastes like nothing else in the world. Earthy, coastal, slightly oily in the best possible way, with a complexity that drinkers with 50 years of experience still find genuinely surprising. They have consistently refused to scale up production at the cost of quality. In a world where every distillery on this list has made the opposite choice, Springbank is both a provocation and a reward. Check your local independent whisky retailer. It is worth every bit of effort to track down. And there you have it. From industrial grain spirit dressed up in tartan to genuinely crafted expressions from distillers who chose pride over profit. We have taken you through both sides of the British whisky market. The industry has spent decades and hundreds of millions of pounds convincing you that price and packaging tell the truth. They do not. The bottles we just described tell the truth. They cost more because genuinely honest whisky costs more to make and to source. Go to your cabinet right now, check those labels. Look for E150A, look for the absence of an age statement, look for grain-heavy blends hiding behind Scottish imagery and claims they have not earned. Then drop a comment below with what you found and what you plan to replace it with. If this changed the way you think about whiskey, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More investigations are coming. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, always read the label, keep rising,